Alright folks, so this is the boo sign that we're going to make today. I'm going to show you how I do it in sublimation, and you'll see lots of different versions, options along the way, but this is how I do it. So we're going to go to Illustrator. I've already got my files unzipped, so we're going to go open up the Boo Reaper. Doesn't matter what version that we open up right now. I'm going to open up the SVG. I'm going to zoom out so I can see the whole thing. And this is the 18¼ inch high version. I'm just going to be making a 12-inch version today. So in case these are not at the same level, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on one of them. Make sure that your aspect ratio lock over here is on. And I'm going to make it 12 inches high. I'm going to come over to the second part here, and I'm going to make it 12 inches high. So those are now identical. Gonna scooch them over together a little bit. And then, in case they were at a different level or something like that, I'm going to just align them both to the bottom. So, I'm going to slide this over just a little bit more. That's not for the art portion, that is for the cut portion. I just want to be able to select this all by itself and group it again in Lightburn later. So we have our 12-inch cut file. That part is really simple. I'm going to export it. I export all of my cuts as PDF. In fact, what I do is I select what's on the screen, File, Export Selection. I'm going to do a PDF. And I'm going to call this the Boo Reaper cut file. So there's our Boo Reaper cut. And then I'm going to come back. I'm going to delete the backer. Even though the backer is what we're going to be subbing on, the top layer is what has all of our divisions. So, and delete that. Now I'm going to export this one. So, you can actually open up the PDF in Photoshop. You can open up the SVG in Photoshop and tell it that, you know, what size you want it to be. Currently, I am exporting this as a PNG file. A couple things to know. We're still going to export selection. We're going to choose PNG, but over here there's some options. Typically it says 1x scale. I'm going to change that to resolution and change it from 72 pixels per inch to 300, which is what I'm going to be working on in Photoshop. So it's going to be a PNG, Boo Reaper sub. And we're going to put that in the same folder. You can put it wherever you like. So I have my cut and my sub. So now we're going to come over here to Photoshop. I'm going to open my Boo Reaper sub PNG. This is an earlier one. Alright, so it's got a transparent background. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select part of that background, the outline. I'm going to turn over to a black layer, and I'm just going to paint that background. I believe our eyes are going to be black as well. So I'm going to select those, paint those black. Let's look at our reference photo. And they are. So for sublimation, you do not get white. So we're subbing on whiteboard. So you can either ignore the face, or you can do something like a light gray. So I'm going to go with a kind of a gray color here. Select the face and paint that in. Okay. Next, we're going to choose a color for his clothes. Make sure you get all of the parts of that. Now we have a couple of different options. I'm going to be using some layers and some textures and such. So I can't copy and paste transparent, so I have to color it something. I'm already gray, so I'm just using that. And I'm going to Control C, Control V to copy and paste. And now you'll see I have another layer. If I double click on that layer, I'm going to get different options, such as we can go really simple. We can do a color overlay, choose what color we want his outfit to be. We could instead do a gradient overlay. We could do a pattern. I played with that earlier, but I think it's too busy. Or we could just do a solid color. I think this time I'm going to do a gradient. Within our gradients, we have lots more options. So I'm just gonna grab one real quick and show you kind of the options that we have. So we have a reflected. You'll see a preview over here of what that looks like. Linear, radial. We can play with the scale of that. An angle. Let's see how that is. Reflected we started with, and then a diamond. So I think I would go with a linear. We can also change the scale of that, and we can change the direction of that. So now you see kind of what it does. I'm going to go a lot less crazy with that. I think I liked kind of a purple one. Now we can click on our gradient, and we can click somewhere and add another color if we wanted to. So first we could click on this one, and we could say I want it to be kind of a version of purple, maybe a lighter purple at the bottom, fading into a darker purple. At the top like that. If we wanted to, we could click and add another color location. So it's just preference. A lot of times you don't know what you want until you get in here and play with it. I kind of like that. So I'm going to OK that. Now that's another layer. You can leave it as another layer, or you can merge it with the first. The most important thing is now when you come to select let's say that we're going to do the knife. If you just go to select now, you're selecting on the wrong layer. So you see how I got all that. Instead, you want to come back down here to layer 0 and do your selection. And now we're selecting just the part that we want. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and move on to blood. So these sections were blood. I'm going to make just a quick red. Somehow I got unselected when I did that. Alright, so we're going to do just a quick red. We could stop there, or we could go fancy. So I'm going to do another layer. I'm going to do a bevel and emboss effect. That is way too strong. We can change the depth. So we're just looking for something that looks oozy and runny, and I think right now that works out well. I like it. So now I'm going to come back to layer 0. I'm going to select the broom, or the handle for the sickle there. Again, I have to color it something. Copy paste. And I'm going to put that gradient you saw earlier, that brown. I'm sorry, it wasn't. No, I guess it was a gradient. I'm just looking for the version I started out with earlier. I think it was that reflected. And then I just want the direction of that line to follow his staff. We're getting pretty close there. This is all subjective. Maybe it's darker there because he holds it there in the middle a lot more often. Yeah. All right. So now we're going to do the blade. See what I did there? Got to come back to layer 0. Got to make it a color. I'm going to copy and paste that one. I like that one. However, we're going to do linear, and I'm going to change the direction of that. So it looks like we got a really shiny metal blade. Something like 32. I think I'm going the wrong way. That's pretty nice. That looks like it's shiny. You can also combine effects, so we can see if adding a bevel and emboss adds anything. And I think it does. So we're going to go with that. So we're just about done. All we have to do is add something for our back. Again, color it something. I missed a spot. Copy paste. And this is one of your harder decisions. You have to decide what color background you want. I kind of like the yellow that he had from the start. That's pretty nice, bright. We could do a gradient. We could do a pattern. So patterns, you can pick a photo, you can pick a seamless tile. This is some bandages I used on the Reaper, or on the mummy. So I'll show you that real quick. This is an image I opened up. I just went to Edit, Define Pattern, and gave it a name. And then it shows up under our fill tools. We can fill with a pattern. So just to go crazy example so you know what I'm talking about. Let's grab, let's see what this looks like. Let's grab this ooze. Gonna image, or I'm gonna edit, define pattern as green swirl. That's a good name. And now, and we don't even have to keep this open anymore. It's done. So if we go back to our Reaper level, and I go to patterns, I now have green swirl as an option. And then once I do that, I can choose the scale. I can choose the opacity over whatever background color I put on it. You can do all kinds of blend modes. And just play with the settings and see what you like. I think I like normal. I'm just trying to decide if I like that color with him. I like the color, I just don't know that it goes with the purple. So I'm going to show you. Let me go find my purple layer. There it is. And we can double click on that purple layer and we can choose to do something else with it. So maybe instead of purple, We want like yellow. We don't want yellow. He has the Grim Reaper, so maybe something like black will work nice. That's kind of fancy looking, huh? And of course, once you're done, you can still play with the angle and the scale. Or we can just say, you know what, I want a black. Alright, I think he looks good. So I didn't look at it earlier, but I'm going to show you. My image size is 12 by 300. It's actually 12.01. And I'm going to just make it exactly the same. Alright. I'm going to save that. As a PNG. And I'm just going to add green to it so I can find it again later. I use 8.5 by 14 paper. I'm going to go ahead and print him. I'm using an Epson EcoTank 2803 printer. I always use the same settings, but I like to come in here and just verify my settings. Oh, one thing I like to do before I print is I'm going to go to our image. I'm going to select all. I'm going to, for now, group all of these layers together. And then I'm going to adjust the vibrance. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. That way the sub comes out really, really bright and colorful. All right. So now we're going to print. The printing settings are a little bit advanced for what we're doing right now, but I'm going to go ahead and show them and kill two birds with one stone. So here's my sublimation. I'm going to look at my settings. Two-sided is off. We're using premium presentation paper matte with high quality. We're going to go to color and advanced. And here are the color settings that I use. These are pretty common settings for Epson EcoTank, and they definitely make your colors brighter and pop. So these are what you want to try. The colors that you see on paper are never accurate. You don't really see the color until you apply heat and press it to your garment or your wood. Make sure that bidirectional printing is off. You'll get lines in your prints that are horrible. And I like to have mirror image turned on here so I don't have to mirror in Photoshop and forget and mess up prints. So once I got all those settings the way I liked them, I went ahead and saved them as a preset. So Let's go ahead and print. And we're printing. So next we're going to go out to the laser and cut our sublimation layer and our top layer. So I'll meet you out there. All right, so we are going to cut him. I'm going to use my flash laser, FL690. It's 24 by 36 inch bed. I have pass through in the front and back. This is a sheet I've already used, but I've already checked it and I have room to get a portion of this up there. So I'm going to lay out some and we're going to start cutting. So in Lightburn, if you open, you replace what's on the bed. If you import, for one, it looks at other than Lightburn files by default, and for two, it adds to what's on the bed. So we're going to go with our Boo Reaper cut. Going to add that in. I'm going to move it down here for a moment so I can ungroup. Now you see why I gave them a little bit of space in Inkscape or in Illustrator. So I'm going to Control G and group that. Don't forget this little ring up here. Control G and group that. Gonna place that. I'm just lining them up to get the most use out of this material. If I do it right, I might get a couple of 6-inch versions or so out of it as well. Make sure that you don't mess up and overlap like that and accidentally cut out part of your other file, because that sucks. All right. This is a 100-watt laser. I'm currently using 16 millimeters a second at 65 power. Let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Cutting just the outline. It's going to take 1 minute and 41 seconds. Cutting the large. It's the whole file, but it's going to be the outline. That cut is going to take 7 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and run them both, and I'm going to select them. I have cut selected items. Now I'm going to frame and make sure that everything fits. This is one feature that Glowforge doesn't have and could really use. So I'm going to frame it and show you that you see how those hooks on the bees, it says are in my path. They are, however, in my design, they're not. It's just making a rectangle around my design, and that's why it looks like it's going to fail. It's going to be fine. So let's start cutting. And I won't make you watch the whole cut, but we'll get started. I love this flash laser. Currently, it's just under $4,000, shipped from China to your door. Said it's 24 by 36. It's got a pass-through in the front and back. Came with an SNA water chiller. I added the compressor. Comes with a real Ruida controller and a real Recce 100 watt tube. Also came with a big loud jump house inflatable exhaust fan, which totally serviceable but very loud. So I've got a 8-inch cloud line that's mounted on the outside of the house. So I've got my water running, I've got my air running, I've got air assist running, compressors going, and you can see I can totally watch TV or have a conversation out here. It's very quiet. All right, we're gonna let that continue and we're gonna go do something very important. So a critical step in the process is to heat up our heat press. This is a Vever, it's a 15 by 15. I sublimate that white hardboard at 350 degrees. 60 seconds works. I like the color off of 120 seconds a little bit better. So when I was figuring out those settings, I just printed a bunch of discs at different times, trying to decide which one I liked better. And that was 60. These were 120, and I think I liked them a bit better. You can see they're a little bit clearer. I've also found that the paper matters. 125 gram paper works fine using a sub paper. However, 120 gram works a little bit better. You might have to wipe it off with a damp cloth, just really lightly, but it works really good. 120, you have to do less of that. A sub eco paper I ordered once because I couldn't get the 120 gram. And I do not recommend that one. While it works, it leaves a very powdery white paper residue that you really got to scrub off. So stay away from eco. Currently I'm using HTV Ront 120 gram, and I'm liking that a lot as well. So this thing takes about 15 minutes to get up to 350, which is why we started it. While we're waiting, I'll show you some others. These are some sublimated benches on the whiteboard. Here's our ghost I did last night. This is a 12-inch ghost. These are all 6-inch. And we can go check and see if our print's done. And so yes, our print has completed. Here's our ghost. He's mirrored so that he matches up with our cut so we can do the heat press. While we wait, I'll talk about tools. So I was using one of these. I don't know why it's on my desk. I think somebody tried to clean up the craft area and thought they were being helpful. I don't like this. I don't like this because if you have to trim your paper and there's a little bit of a white line that you don't want, it's near impossible to trim that little sliver off with this. So I have switched to this mat and this rotary cutting tool, which is very precise and I love it, combined with a thick ruler that is also clear. That lets you get right to the edge of your material. Because you can see through it. Also, I was using this little metal ruler, which is fine. However, when this blade jumps up over that and slices your finger, you won't like it. So I like the thickness of that ruler edge. I don't jump up off of the paper up onto here like I do with that metal ruler. So these two tools are awesome. So let's take a second and talk about our material. I get a white hardboard at Lowe's. Comes as a 4x8 sheet. It's $20. Looking to see if the barcode is still visible. It is, 1 second. All right, here's the product. Thrifty white, 4x8 by 1/8. You can get this as a 4x8 sheet for $20 at Lowe's. You can get it for like a 2 foot by 4 foot sheet for $15, which I would not recommend. That's a horrible deal compared. I already showed you my 100-watt settings. If you're using a Glowforge, I was doing 130 full on this. Our cut has completed. The one thing I recommend, little Harbor Freight picks. Make sure that your item cut before you remove the board. So here we're fine. I'm going to pause and take that off. And so we're fine. I actually have room here. I can't do another one this direction because my bed is 24 and these are 24, and you see I have a gap. But I could do some 6 inches in there, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Next up, you might have just a little bit of soot on here, especially on this part we're gonna sub. So I like to spray it with some glass cleaner or some baby wipes, whatever you got to take any char off the top surface. So I'm gonna do that real quick. I'm just gonna wipe it with I'm gonna spray the glass cleaner on this wipe and wipe this down. So next up, these are clean. This layer needs to be black. Well, it could be whatever you color or whatever color you like. Generally, that's gonna be black. So I'm using some ultra matte. I really like the finish of this one. I also like to use the black from Hardcore 94 Montana paint. So 94 is their matte, Hardcore is their gloss, and I really like their 94 black. However, I'm out, so I really like this one too. It is almost midnight and it's raining outside, so I have this little setup. I'm gonna spray paint that real quick, and then while this dries, we can go sublimate the top. I am not left-handed. I am for the moment though. You can tell I'm all right. Now let's go sub our bottom layer. We are at temp, so we just need to tape this down real quick. Now, even though our design was 12 inches and our print was 12 inches, I've noticed they don't line up 100%, and I'm trying to figure out why. It's okay, because whatever white edges we might expose, our top edge piece is going to cover that. But let's see if I I changed it from SVG to PDF to see if that would help. Or I'm sorry, PNG. So let's see how we line up now. All right, that looks like that worked out perfect. So I'm gonna say I recommend saving from Illustrator to a 300 dpi PNG file. Because what was happening last night is, if this ring matched perfect, I would have a big black, like an 1/8 inch of black showing down here, and vice versa. So I'm gonna tape it real quick. I just use a couple pieces at the top, a couple pieces at the bottom. All right, we're taped up. Some people like to put their things in their press this way. I find that makes your blank have to heat up before your paper can heat up, and I have never had good success with that. So I like to put my paper facing up on the bed with my blank below. Come around. We're going to do 350 for 120 seconds. Medium pressure. So if you're wondering what this paper is, I was using this. This is packing paper from Harbor Freight. You get a ton of it for about 10 bucks. I was using it and it was great, but it was a little bit thin and oversized. So something I'm using now is this construction paper. You get it at the Home Depot, Lowe's, etc. It's very thick, about the thickness of a paper bag from the grocery store. And I just started using that yesterday, but so far I really love it. We're done with him, so I'm gonna turn him off. Here's our print. I'm gonna set him. I have this glass tabletop, and it really helps wick the heat away from that. It's not necessary, but it helps. You could also put it down on a cold stone, a tile floor, or just set it down and wait for it to lose its heat. I'm going to try to peel this one-handed. I don't have a ton of tape on here. There we go. So I'm going to set you down and peel this tape bar off real quick. All right, so here's our initial look. I pretty much nailed. There's just a tiny little bit of a white edge there, tiny bit at the bottom, but the edge, the top layer is going to hide that. If you were only doing this as one layer, that would be acceptable. I might just take a black Sharpie and hide that little bit of white down there, but I'm picky. And a good sub, you're not going to have a lot of paper or ink left on your paper. Something that does make this look really nice though is to just quickly run a wet cloth across it and take off some of that paper residue that you see there. So this is just a damp microfiber cloth. Let's see if I can wipe it with one hand. Okay, so here he is. Next up, we would be adding our dry top layer. Just like that. It gives it dimension. I like how our color is sunken in and we have these raised edges, even more than painting the pieces and dropping them back in. Although bigger than 12 inches, I find that I have no problem seaming 2 pieces of paper tall. So if I can make a 24 and it was still less than 8.5 inches wide, I would do that. But I believe these at 24 inches are about 9.5 inches wide or so. And so I don't want to seam 4 papers together. So 12 is about as much as I'm going to sub for this design. Bigger than that, I'm going to just go back to painting, and I have another tutorial on how I do that. Now, how do you stick these 2 layers together? I use Super 77 3M spray adhesive. I set this guy on its face over there, spray the back of it, carefully line up a portion, like using 2 hands, line up that top, and then slowly lower it down into position. Something else you can do is use a little popsicle stick or something, shims, to hold the bottom up off, and then once you're ready to drop it, slide those out and let it drop. I've had lots of people say that this is not going to last. When it gets hot, the layers are going to fall apart. I'm in Arizona. I've had signs sitting outside on a covered patio for a year. They're fine. I have car hangers that hang in my dash at 120 degrees in the sun all day, and they are still sealed together, no problem. So this is good stuff. And I'm going to cover one more thing before we go, and that is as nice as this looks, I really like the look of it under triple thick glaze, and it makes it really glossy, really glassy, shiny. I would spray this, and then glue them together. Otherwise, you want to make sure that you get it from multiple angles so that you don't have shadows of no paint from different angles, right? This looks really good. I'm going to take you in and show you one that was already done with this, actually. So here's a boo. It's a 6-inch that is fresh, just like the other one is. And here it is again with a layer of triple thick glaze on it. I mean, it's wet, it's gonna dry, but you can see the shininess of it already. Here is a mummy plain. And a mummy triple thicked. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed that. That was just a quick tutorial. Quick. None of my videos are quick. I try, but I try to be informative, and I hope I don't bore you while I'm showing you all the steps of the process. So anyway, I hope that was helpful to you. Watch the channel for more videos. You can comment, subscribe, let me know what else you'd like to see me do. I'd be happy to try it. And thanks for watching.